I can do the meetup if you've got Twitter handy. Because I think I've got editing privileges in the meetup as long as I can figure out who I'm logged in as. I can do the meetup if you've got Twitter handy.
Sorry, I was getting like a feedback loop from the screen there.
Yeah, I was too.
Yeah, I'm gonna mute myself for just a sec, and then I'll. Sorry, I muted myself too soon. We're already live, so I'm just gonna go ahead and get the link out to everybody, and then we'll start sharing and wait for some folks to start joining. Everybody, thanks for waiting. We're still gonna wait a couple more minutes while people still kind of file in, and then we'll get started. If you missed the announcement, we're gonna do a talk tonight, like a kind of an impromptu live coding talk on single SPA, and then maybe a general Q&A session on just web development in general. If you have any questions, any problems that you're facing, maybe we can all kind of mob program and help you out. And yeah, so just stay tuned. We're gonna get started here in a few minutes. So hang tight.
Well, how do I set up my sweet avatar?
Oh, I think you have to, like, I don't know, maybe you have to log in or something. Do you have an account to make an avatar? Talking about on Zoom?
Yeah. I bet I can find it somewhere in settings here. Let me look.
Cool. I'll keep going off camera because I don't want to look at my own face. I don't know if you can see this little like hole in my beard right here. See that?
Yeah.
I was trimming it and took a
Whoops.
chunk out.
When you take the whole beard off, man.
I might as well just shave it at this point. I'm hoping I can like grow this part out and like kind of do a little beard comb over, but oh
There
well.
you go.
Yeah, what can you do? Let's give it like 4 more minutes and we'll start right at 6:10. Just wait for folks to kind of file in. And then we'll do, I guess, like some brief announcements. Do you have anything you want to share?
No, I feel like we could use speakers for sure.
Yeah. You're gonna notice this is a last minute, unprompted talk that I'm giving tonight. So you're gonna see all my mistakes as I do this because I have not prepared.
Yeah, and I would say even beginner talks, I mean, they don't have to be anything, even if you just want to share something that you've been working on or that you've been learning, any level is good. And then also just general ideas for how we might want this to look, because we're probably going to be doing it virtual for a while now. For
sure, yeah. If any feedback on the format, while we're transitioning to more of a fully remote thing, please let us know. And your comment about beginner talks, like this single spot stuff, I picked it up about 2 weeks ago, and something I'm looking into for a project I'm working on. And so yeah, it's basically like you just got to be like a step ahead. It's like teaching, right? Like you read the chapter ahead, right, and then you teach the students what you just learned.
Yeah. You just cheat. You look at the teacher's edition. It's got all the answers in the back.
Yeah, that's how they look. That's how you look so smart. You just have the answer key. So I don't have the answer key tonight. We're gonna stumble and fumble, but that's part of the fun. And yeah, it's gonna be. I would say it's gonna be fun, but it's gonna be frustrating for me. But it may be fun for you to watch.
Okay, I think I got my avatar figured out.
Oh, sweet. What do you got? Oh yeah, there you go. I don't know. Does it actually show up on YouTube like that?
We'll find out in about 30 seconds.
Sweet. My sweet gamer chair matches your avatar.
Turns out it does not show up on.
Bummer. Well, now they don't know what I'm talking about. It was a picture of Russ, but it's red. It's like a red, I don't know, cartoony.
Is that a buddy's listening party? Do you remember when you used to go see live music?
Oh yeah,
that used to be a thing.
That was a thing we used to do.
All right, so I guess for those of you who are out there, we have a little bit of a lag, maybe about a minute. So if you do have questions that you feel like you would like us to try and field after Will gives a short presentation, just throw them in there and we will try and get to them as they get asked.
Alrighty, looks like it's 6:10. I'm gonna go ahead and get started. Wait, we're gonna do announcements first, but I don't think we really have anything other than we need speakers. So tell your friends, let us know. Yeah. Anyways, so I'm going to give a talk tonight on single SPA. And let me see if I can share my screen here. So single SPA, what is it, you may ask? So single SPA is a kind of a very thin shim to enable you to write applications or micro front ends, really, in multiple frameworks. So you can say in React and Vue and Angular, Ember, anything, Vanilla.js even. You can think of it as really just like a router. So say you're on the / route, that's the root route that could render maybe a marketing app. Say you're on the / account route, and any paths after / account that could render the account app. And so you can have all these different front ends that are in different frameworks, all being rendered together into a cohesive framework, or into a cohesive site. One of the benefits of this is, not to like have a ton of different frameworks on your page. That's definitely not the ideal. But you can use it to kind of take the strangler pattern approach, where you could start to migrate away from, say you're migrating away from Angular to maybe something like React, or maybe you're migrating from React to Ember. That's a shout out for Ryan there. You can basically use it as a way to like kind of slowly migrate existing applications frameworks into using more of a micro front end approach. So you can learn more at single-spa.js.org. I'm going to do like a live coding, like you're going to watch me mess up kind of deal, to kind of show you how to do some of the stuff. I'm going to probably just use React for like maybe 2 or 3. I'm going to build like maybe 2 or 3 like little mini apps and wire them all together, and I'll show you how it all kind of works. So I'm going to pause for just a couple seconds to see if there's any questions, any concerns, if this makes sense. And then if everything looks good, then we're going to keep on going. Russ, do you have anything to add?
No. Looking forward to seeing how this works, though.
Me too.
Could be useful.
We'll see. All right, cool. Yeah, just keep an eye on the chat, and if anybody, feel free to interrupt me at any time. You don't have to wait till the end. But we will have a general Q&A session towards the end. If you have like any problems you're working on at work, homework problems at NSS or school or whatever, let us know. We can help you think through it. So, okay, cool. So I'm gonna go to iTerm. So I've got let me know when it gets to a point where you can actually read it well, Russ. That look okay? All right. Cool. So I made this folder. So it's going to be like a root container of like all of our different apps. You can think of each of these folders that I create as their own disparate GitHub repositories. You could do a mono repo and deploy each of these independently as well. But just to kind of illustrate that, hey, you don't have to have shared single shared single repo. Like this is all very much disconnected. I'm going to kind of do it as different apps or different folders. So if you actually go back to the single SPA website here, actually go back to where it's actually at. So there's this section here called recommended setup, and it can kind of walk you through how to convert an existing app over to using single SPA. But I should point out that under the hood, really the only thing that the magic that this is using is something called System.js. And System.js is a module loader, and it allows you to import modules kind of on the fly, right? Using it has like its built-in registry. So we're going to take advantage of that in a second. But so there's a CLI tool that we're going to use. You can install it either globally, or you can just run npx. I just run npx because it's usually pretty fast to just grab it on the fly and then, boom. You also can use Yarn if you're using Yarn. I should probably use that because I actually use Yarn. I just have habit of npx there. But if you hear my kids screaming in the background, I apologize. I can't stop that. Anyway, so I'm going to do npx creates single SPA. I'm doing this in this single NashJS folder. It's going to take a second to grab all the modules and stuff here.
You did npx.
I did. Yeah, I should have did yarn. We'll do both. We'll try it. I'll try the other one out. It's going to do the same thing. It'll even create a yarn lock file for us because I'm going to tell it I'm going to use yarn when it actually runs. Okay, so the director for this new project, I'm going to call this single. Or we'll call it NashJS root. So this would be the root app, the thing that's like tying everything together. Okay. And we're going to tell it that this is the single spa root config, right? So you have three different options. You have a single spa application or parcel, and we'll talk about parcels in a second. It could be a utility. So this could be like something like a style guide, a UI framework, an API that has maybe some caching, things like that. And then you have this root config. So this root config is you only really need one of these. This is going to be the thing that it's kind of the glue that ties everything together. So I'm going to start that. And here we go, yarn, right? So I'm going to use yarn going forward. I shouldn't have used npm, but whatever. And will I use TypeScript? I should probably say no because I'm really rusty with TypeScript, but I'm going to say yes. And we're going to fumble, right? Fumble through it. So, and then this last piece says, would you like to use single spa layout engine? So what this is, it's like a declarative router that's in the HTML, and you basically can say, hey, given this route pattern, load this application, right? So we're going to use that just to kind of illustrate some of the stuff here. And our organization is going to be NashJS, and there we go. So it created a couple files for us. This EJS file is kind of like the index HTML that we'll build. Created a Webpack config for us, some prettier config. The package.json has some like Husky rules that it generates for us, and it's installing all the dependencies. And once that gets going, excuse me. Cool. So now it says projects have complete. You can type in run start to boot up your single spa root config. Neato. So we're in the single NashJS repo. There's a folder called NashJS root, and I'm going to make sure that I have VS Code open. It's probably going to be kind of hard to see, but I have VS Code open, and there's the single root folder that I just made, right? So, and here's all the files that it made. Here's the package.json file. Let me move this over just a smidge. Hopefully y'all can see that okay. So basically,
right.
Say it again.
That looks good.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll squeeze it down a little bit. So this start command that we're going to run is basically just going to run Webpack dev server, right? And it's going to run on port 9000. Those of you that have Zscaler at work, you might want to change this to something else because it'll conflict, but I'm on my personal laptop, so it's okay. And then build just runs Webpack, right? So we have these two commands. It also has a pre-commit hook that'll run and make sure you do prettier and lant and all that stuff. So let's actually go see what that does. Hit yarn start. Lips. I got to go to the root NashJS root app and do that. Okay, there we go. Cool. So if you scroll back up just a smidge, we got project is running at localhost 9000. And the Webpack output is being served from / and everything that falls this fallback 404 fallback will basically serve. So like if you go to when you use React router, things like that, like if you don't use a hash router and you actually use push state, if you go to /account /foo /whatever, it'll load the index HTML file and then the router can take over. So that's what this is doing here. So this has an FYI. And if that doesn't make sense to you, feel free to ask questions in the chat and I can kind of further elaborate on it. Okay, cool. So we have, we have our first root container. I'm going to bump the font up just a little bit here. So there is a file called index.ejs, and that is in the source folder in our root container app. So it's saying we should probably, for a React app, we should probably add React and React DOM as shared dependencies so that we can not have to have all of our applications include React and React DOM every single time. Just keeps our bundle sizes smaller. So I'm going to go ahead and do that real quick. And let's see. So go into our config here, or our tree here, index.ejs. I'm going to bump it down just a little bit. Let me know if it's too small and I can go back up. So it built this file for us. It's got some kind of like default config here. But so what you can see is basic HTML5 HTML structure. We've got this regenerator runtime that's loading, some meta tags. We've got, so this is defining what the system.js import map type is. We've got a basic import map here that's saying, hey, this if any application that references single SPA as an import type, load it from here. And then we're preloading the single SPA bundle on load. And then local. Then this if local, right? So if local, if we're on local dev, here's our import map, right? So one thing that we can note is like when we're in production, we can actually point it to a JSON file that's generated on the fly, either served through a Lambda or served through a S3 bucket or whatever. For local dev, we're just going to do this here, where we have, where we have these the scopes, right? So we have package names and then the files, the bundles that they reference, right? So you can see that it automatically added this NashJS /root config scope, and that root config file is this one, right? So it's basically saying, importing some packages from single SPA. Whenever that file loads up, it's looking for all of the single SPA layout routes on the index.html file, and looping over all of them, registering them as applications, and constructing the layout, and then starting up everything. So it's kind of doing a lot of magic for you. But basically, what you can think of it as doing is it's looking for this template right here, looking for all the routes that are inside the template, and then finding application names that exist, and then dynamically registers each of these applications, right? So one thing you can note here is this single SPA welcome, right? So this isn't something, we don't have this in any of our application, right? So there's nothing here, there's no other applications that are running, but it's defined up here, right? This import, and it's defined on this unpackage CDN. If you actually open this up, let's see. You can see, well, it's going to be kind of hard to read, but basically it's a UMD module that renders all of this content right here. All this content right here is the welcome single SPA app that's being pushed from this bundle right here, right? So you can see how how powerful it is. I have an application being automatically injected from a configuration that I loaded here, right? So it's mentioned a minute ago about loading React and stuff like that. So let's do that real quick before I get too sidetracked. So you add an entry for modules that will be shared across your dependencies, for example, React, and we're going to add it to the import map. So in our import map locally, I think I already copied this, but we'll do it again. Here, right underneath, actually, let's just do it before all of our other stuff, right? So add those in. So now I'll have React on the window, or have React available. Let's see, invalid.js. What did I forgot a comma there. And that. Cool. So now there we go. So we can see when our application starts up, it initially loads the document, the index.js file, then it loads the runtime, then it loads the import map, then it loads system.js, then it loads our React DevTools, and then it should load React when we actually use it. So you can see that it's not actually even loaded React yet because we haven't actually imported it yet. So, which is handy. Okay, so sorry.
So is that HTML in that file being run on the server? Like, what does your DOM look like there? Is it just the DOM from whatever you're importing?
So here's the DOM. It's pretty straightforward. It's basically that file, right? So the DOM is this, right? You have a body and a script tag, and that's it, right? And then you have these import maps. Since I'm running yarn start locally on this folder here on the root container, it's serving that EJS file, parsing it on the fly. But if I run yarn build on this file, or on this folder rather, it will create this dist folder, right? So if we look in the dist folder, now there's an index.html file, right? And if we look at that index.html file, oops, you can see that it's a minified version of that HTML, and it has that same stuff in it, right? The import maps. So the DOM is super compact. There is ways to server-side render, and we can talk about that in a minute. But for right now, I'm just going to run this all locally. Okay, sweet. So we've got our root container. So let's start actually creating some applications that can be plugged into the root container. and replace that single welcome application. So I'm going to kind of move this root container over here, and we'll go back to let's see. Oops. Where everything's at. Okay, so I'm back in my like main container that's going to house all my repos and stuff like that. So if I go back to NashJS, you can see that. Actually, wait, that's not a repo yet. But let me make an application real quick. So back in the kind of the housing container, right, in this NashJS folder, I can do same command, npx create single spa, and it's going to do its thing again. I should probably install this locally so I don't have to download all those modules every time while we're on the call, but I'm really trying to stretch this talk out a little bit, you know.
Looks like YouTube has been having some issues for some folks watching.
Oh, is it like stuttery, or is it?
Yeah, I think it's just sort of in and out.
Oh, bummer. I wonder if it's my Wi-Fi.
No, you sound fine to me on the Zoom call.
Okay, well, shoot.
But I think you could probably, let me just gauge the room.
I have speed test installed on here. Okay, well, while we're waiting, I'm gonna keep pushing on. But let me know if I need to start over, or if I need to find a way to stream somehow else. Cool. So yeah, so the director for a new project, let's do. So first thing we can do is maybe let's create an application for maybe accounts. So we'll say NashJS account. So this could be like our login, our password reset. Oops, I spelled it wrong. Login, password reset, things like that. This is going to be a single spot application. And this is going to be a React app. I'm going to use Yarn, we use TypeScript. NashJS is the org. And we call this NashJS, what do we call it? I call it accounts. What's the name of the project? Okay, and it's going to do its thing.
So it sounds like other people are having no problems at all. So I say.
Okay, weird. Maybe it's just the frame rate or something on the video.
Yeah.
Well, the lucky thing is, as long as it's getting to YouTube and it's not, they're not choking completely, we'll have the archive of the video on YouTube that we can at least reference later. Maybe if you're having internet trouble or whatever, we can look at that later. So
sweet.
Okay, cool. So you can see that there's a couple things here that's worth noting. One, it says yarn start port 8500, right? So for this specific application, I can run on port 8500 and serve just this bundle, right? Another thing, it says to go to the single spot playground, and it says it has this query parameter at NashJS account, and then the port 8500, right? So if I run this, if I run yarn start at 8500, that's going to run this application. Ooh, shoot, I got to go into the thing again. I keep forgetting to do that. NashJS accounts, yarn start 8500. We'll let Webpack do its thing, but I wanted to show this thing off real quick. This single spot playground. So you can see here, like this single spot playground, this is the same kind of thing that the index.ejs file that we showed earlier. It's just single spot has their own version of it, right? And what's actually really powerful is when I ran that command, I actually injected that our bundle in here as the main app, right? So, and I'll show you like this config down here. You can actually change the import map overrides on the fly locally. And this actually is going to be a key point when you're working with multiple teams. You don't have to have the entire application running. You only have to have your application running. So you can have a stable bundle for all these other applications on dev somewhere. And while you're building only just your application, you only have to have your application running with Webpack Dev Server. And as you make changes with hot module reloading, all that stuff, only your stuff changes, and you don't have to worry about anybody else's stuff. So you don't have to have this huge giant infrastructure to run all this stuff. So there we go. So I've got.
Will you just reiterate that one more time? How did you get that playground? And like that was not a local URL.
Yeah. So so what it's doing. So if I click this single spa playground, instant test, it says name equals NashJS, an account is URL 8500. So what it's actually doing under the hood, you can't really see it now that it refreshed, but go over here to the network tab. So 8500 is the port that my app is running on. So if I come over here to the filter, and let's see. There we go, NashJS accounts. I don't know if you can see this or not, but it's loading this file, right, from my localhost on their site, because I basically said, hey, load this in.
Oh, as a query string param or something.
Yeah. And that just allows us to test that, hey, this app's actually mountable and it's working. You really don't have to use it too much, but so if I go back over to our root config and refresh, nothing happens, right? There's nothing there. But so if I go over to index.ejs, I go back to our import map. I'm going to go make a new line here. I'm going to call this accounts, right? So, and then remember our port was 8500 for that app. And then our config was NashJS accounts.js, right? So save that. And then if I go back to our router down here, instead of loading this single spa welcome, I'm actually going to load the accounts app instead, right? So I'm going to do NashJS accounts, save, and then refresh here. Something's not working. Must have spelled something wrong. Sorry, I can't. I have my stuff zoomed in too far. Yeah, I forgot a comma, I think. Yep, always do that. Refresh. Okay, there we go. So now NashJS accounts is mounted, right? So let's go look at that application in our VS Code. So basically, here where it says route/default, that is basically saying that if there's no other route that matches, load this application. So this is our fallback route, right? So if I change this route to be like, I think it's path. I forgot the actual name of it. Let me look at the docs. Layout engine. Yeah, path. Okay, so path. And then this is like kind of a starts with, so I can say account here. So if I go back to here, the root app, it's not doing anything. There's no app for it to mount, right? But if I go up here and type in accounts, now it's loading NashJS accounts, right? And remember, if I refresh, since I have on my Webpack dev server, I have the fallback to always go to index.html, right? So index.html is loading up the system.js file, it's loading up the module, and then the module is saying, hey, I know I'm supposed to be mounted here because my URL is this route, right? So then that whole application stands up and mounts instantly. Does that make sense?
Okay. So that second application is also a single spa application?
It is a React application, but it has, and I'll show you here in just a second, there is this component here, right? So this is the entry point, right? So Webpack config is basically, well, there's some stuff here that it's basically configuring Webpack for you with their plugin. But this is the entry point, right? So the entry point says using single spa React, take React DOM, and then take my root component, and then take an error boundary. Basically, if anything on the application fails, you can catch it here, right? So it doesn't make anything else fail. And then take all that stuff and export the lifecycle methods, right? So one thing that single spa does is, Vue, Angular, React, the single spa gives you a common lifecycle event. So when the application mounts or unmounts or bootstraps, it can run these functions here and do it. And so basically, this helper program right here, this helper app, single spa React helper app or helper method, is basically building those lifecycle methods for us. So we don't have to manually do it. You can manually do it, and it's and I'll show you. There's some documentation I can show you that can show you how to actually write the bootstrap and write the mount and write the unmount and the unload and all that stuff. But this is kind of the easiest way to get going with just React by just wrapping it here. So this root component right here, this is saying like this is the root of the app. This is like what's loaded whenever the app is loaded, right? So you can see here it's just a regular old React app, right? So you can add anything you want in here, right? So if I come up and do a bunch of different exclamation points, hit save. Oops. hit save, and I should come back over here, and you can see here on the browser, or on the DevTools using Web Dev Server, you have hot module reloading. So it actually injected that module over the wire. So even though you're running the Webpack Dev Server on 8500, your Webpack Dev Server is still mounted in on 9000 and is able to transmit that across the wire and actually inject into the app, which is super powerful. So yeah, so cool. We've got an accounts app. Let's actually make one more app, and we'll call it. Actually, let's make an app just for global nav. Actually, Russ, this is something we were talking about before, right? So
the best, just the best.
Yeah. So I'm going to close this out, and let's see. I'm going to go back, make another folder. Let's do the same npx create single spa. And I'll show you a way, like so you can still render applications even if they don't have a route at all. Like, so for example, the global nav is something that may be persistent across all your applications. Same thing with footer, stuff like that. So, and if I'm talking too fast, please let me know. I get excited and I kind of speed up a little bit. So apologies.
Yeah, I think you can take a little bit.
All right, cool.
Breath. It is going kind of fast.
All right, sweet. So I'm going to call this NashJS dash header. I don't know. Global nav. Call this navigation. All right, and it's going to be a single spa application, React, all the same stuff we did before. Oops. Navigation.
So if you were to refactor an existing app to this, would you have to wrap it in single spot app, like whatever this builds?
Yeah, you can either wrap it in that helper function, or you can manually wrap it. But it's pretty. So I actually just did this today just to test it out. I took an existing Create React app, and what you have to do to make it work with Create React app is that you actually have to disable optimization on the Webpack config because of the way that the chunks are loaded. You can still use lazy loading with imports and stuff like that, so it's still performant, but there's just some things like when it minifies that you can't, that the System.js module can't handle. So that's one thing. Another thing you have to do is change it so instead of rendering a regular common JS module, it has to render out as UMD or System.js. But if we have some time, I'll show that as well.
That's good to know.
Yeah. So okay, cool. So same deal. This is also running on port 8500. I can run it on a different port. I'm gonna actually run it on 8500 for now, just to show you. And in a second, I'm actually gonna build. Crap, did it again. In a second, I'm gonna build both of these and actually show you how it would look like in production, so you don't actually have to run it locally. Okay, cool. So this is running. If I go back to my index file, I'm gonna make another update my import map. So now I have first navigation here, and this is running 8500 navigation now. And then for accounts, I'm actually going to run this on port 3000, and then it's going to be NashJS accounts / dist NashJS accounts JS.
Don't forget your comma. And
my comma. Thank you. So that should load. This is this is what I'm talking about, where like for local dev, I'm only like this 8500 is like my local app that I'm gonna be working on, right? And then all the other ones, like we can have this up in, like, say this is an S3 file somewhere, right? And you like, as long as you have a staging environment and they're all stable, you can just point directly to that instead, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna mimic that. So I've got, I'm gonna go back to, let's see, here, and then I can do, let's see, go to NashJS accounts and then run yarn build on this. And so this is actually going to build that dist file for me, or dist folder, which is going to have the bundle, and it's also going to have the map file for it. So if I look at this dist folder here, if you can see this or not, this dist folder has these two files. It has the JS file and the JS map file. So I'll go back one folder, and then I'm going to run this command called static server using npx. And this I'm running it in that root container, or the main container that has all my folders in it. And this just allows me to like quickly access assets on my file tree. It just has like as a static file server. So if I go to NashJS accounts dist NashJS accounts.js, here's that that bundle file, right? So if I go back over to my index.ejs file, I'll make sure that this this matches here, right? And if you don't know, if you remove HTTP on URLs like this, it'll depending on which protocol you're using. So if you're loaded on HTTPS or you're loaded on HTTP, it'll kind of automatically fill in here, right? So you don't have to put the protocol on it. Anyway, so I'm pointing accounts to this server, which again it's kind of mimicking S3 or some file storage somewhere, but I'm running navigation locally, right? So navigation is running on this one, right? This middle deal. So go back over here to my root config, refresh. So you can see account is still loaded, right? When I'm at /account. If I go to the network tab, that's the wrong one, network tab. Over here where it says NashJS account, you can see that's running from localhost 3000, right? So that localhost 3000 is this server here, that static asset server. So let me actually go back to the root now, and we should see no application loaded, right? Because we don't have anything that matches that route. But what we can do is actually go down here where it says nav, right? This nav element that I have right here, kind of commented out. Now we can do NashJS /navigation, right? And that's going to be in this nav element above the main element, right? So no matter what, it's not contingent on a route. It's just going to load there no matter what, right? So save that, right? So now I have NashJS navigation is mounted, and if I go to /account, we should see both, right? There we go. So you can imagine a global navigation and then an accounts, right? So let's actually fill some of this out just to kind of show you here. If I go back to this root component, I'm going to come up here and add in, not accounts, this is this one. Root component. I'll make this a header, and we're going to give it some nav. Oh my goodness. You know how when people are watching you type, it's like 5 times harder to actually type. And then let's see, we'll call this account. My accounts, and then we'll have one for home, and then maybe we'll do another application for I don't know, name something, Russ.
Footer.
Footer. Okay, well I'll do footer in a sec. So I've got account and then home. So home would just be the home page. So actually, let's make an app for. I'll make an app for the actual home page too, or like maybe like a marketing page, right? But anyways, I got these two links here, and they're not styled very well, but I'll do that in a second. Let's see. Let's go into this app here, and we'll do. Oh crap, that's the wrong one. We'll do yarn add styled components. Whatever. And yarn start again. Come up here and add in import style. Oops. Components. Let's see. We'll call this link item. Styled div. And let's see. Margin 5 pixels. Adding 5 pixels. And I don't know, make the color back up purple. Is that a color? I think that's a color.
It's color, but you missed a P with your padding. Pixels.
Yep. Thanks. That's why you're here. That's why they paid the big bucks. So come up here and I'll just wrap this link item. Actually, you know what? I can just do this. I can make an A tag and call it the whole thing a link item. And maybe that'll work. Don't know. Did I break something? Compiled with warning. Styled was not fine. Oh, I think it's not a named export. I think it's just styled. Let's try that. What did I do wrong? Just try rebuilding just in case. I'm about to go to the docs real quick. Let's see, installation. I'm probably missing something here. Resolutions 5. I think I did it right. Is this right, guys? Russ, is this right? Why is it not showing anything up? The console. Oh, navigation died in loading state. Why? Confused.
Do you have to have anything else in the config to get styled components to work? Anything in the Webpack config?
Maybe. I don't know why it's saying it's dying though. That's weird. Let me check something real quick. There. TS config. Yeah, I don't know. Should work.
This is NashJS, otherwise I'd tell you to just use regular old CSS.
Yep. I wonder if I have to have like a style, like a context or something for it to show up. You know what I mean? Do that. Getting started. Let's see. I don't think it does. I think you're supposed to just. Huh. Okay, hold on a second. I'm gonna.
Do you need the types for TypeScript?
Yeah, I mean,
included?
it's not showing an error or anything, which is weird. Like you would think it. Just showing out all my code around here. Check around that stuff.
What if you did yarn install at types/styled components? I wonder if that would help. Yeah, I think it is not. I think it's not super cut and dry with TypeScript. It looks like you have to create a declarations file.
Yeah, it's weird. It's not even like. Oh, there we go. I got some errors now. Subsequent variable declaration WebSocket. What? Let's see. I'm gonna close this out real quick. Sorry, guys. This is what I'm talking about. We're gonna do it live here. I think actually I need to come up here and do externals. as well on this. I forgot to do this. Let's say React and React DOM are here, and then restart that. That externals line basically tells us that these two libraries are on the already registered on the DOM. Let's see, subsequent, what is this coming? React Native. Like, why is it even asking about React Native?
I put a link in the chat to the docs, the TypeScript part of the docs.
Let's do it. I'm not even sure how to get to the chat. 1 second. All right. Okay. I think I did that already, right? So, and remove React and React DOM, and then also do install types for React and React DOM. If not, we may just skip the styling part. I can show you later. What in the world? I have no idea why it's saying anything about React Native. We're going to do the nuclear option real quick and kill our node modules and then just reinstall Yarn.
I think some inline styling might be in order.
Yep, I'm going to kill it after this. Yeah, thanks for hanging with me. Apologies for, I know you're probably like, if anyone out there sees the problem, let me know, but otherwise we'll move on.
While this is loading, do you feel like, so you mentioned earlier something about server-side rendering, but this is primarily works well with client-side applications, fully client-side applications. Is that right?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Okay, well, I am gonna punt for now because I don't know why this is not it is not working. Yeah, okay, so it's in that, okay. Anyways, just pretend that I've got really cool, pretty styles here, even though I don't. And is it broken anyways, even if I don't have style components? That's hilarious. It is broken anyways. Okay, so what the heck did I change?
Well, you're still importing style components.
Oh, that's right. Do I have to import it differently if I have? I'm using stock components in my personal project, so I'm not sure why it's not working. It must be some Babel config that I forgot about. Anywho, just use your imagination. We can use our imaginations, right? Okay. $80. What the heck? Okay, hold on a second. But you know what? It might be like 8,500. I think I might have had it running on the wrong port.
You just typed 85,000.
Yep. That didn't do anything. Okay. So what did I do? This is all that's here. It's all that's here. Container. I'm really selling it here, huh, Russ?
You had me there.
Okay, yeah. So HTML Webpack plugin. Why? Yeah, this is weird. It's saying types React Native. Let's see, npm ls types React Native. What is like importing that? Oh, it still has, okay. Remove style. So for those of you at home, what I did was I searched for my npm registry to find the specific package that was installed, and this showed me that that React Native package is coming from style components. So when I installed that type style components package earlier, it was still somehow or another including it whenever I run the build. So now hopefully it's gone. Hope and a prayer. Looks good now. Okay, so no type errors found. All right, sweet. So I can go back and refresh. That was a nice little foray into. Okay, now it's still. Russ, help me out here, bud. Saying 8500. Did I spell? Oh, all right. That's my talk, guys. I'm done. Just kidding.
Well, how would you?
There we go.
What's kind of the use case for? Oh, there's something.
Yeah, sorry. It's the port map that I had. Okay, so I've got the account and I've got the home, right? So homepage is going is rendering the default route, which doesn't have anything, and then the homepage renders my account. One thing you can notice here is that it actually has whenever we click, it's doing a hard load, right? So that's kind of jarring. And you have to actually look at the doc request on the network. So if I click between the two, you can see it's doing a full 304 document request. So it's actually loading a whole new page. So one thing we actually can do is on our navigation up here in the documentation, there is the, let's see, this navigate to URL function that you can use. And it is on the single spa namespace. So you can come up here to this root component and I can say import navigate. Oops, I'm in the wrong one. This one here. Import navigate to URL from single spot. This is probably going to puke because I don't have the types for single spot. So add that real quick. It doesn't exist.
Is the package single spa React?
Maybe.
I saw that that hint in VS Code when you were typing.
Yeah, I think it's on the single spa package, which is not the React package. Let me see, go back to our Webpack real quick. It should still have. I thought it was already on here in the same namespace already. Yeah, so this single spa is the same thing that would come like on the root component, or sorry, the entry point. So I wonder if I can hit it from this namespace. Maybe you're right. or I can just add a type def for it. Actually, let's just do this. Say on click. God bless it. Did I mention I didn't prepare for this, right? This is on the cuff, off the
Live
cuff.
coding is hard.
Let's see. I'm gonna pull up another repo that I had again, because I had that link working. Just 1 second. Okay. Probably should just use this repo as the demo anyways. It's already more fleshed out. So there is a component here called app header. Yeah, so that's the same same component that I had before. Let me see what's actually in. Okay, so it's the actual dependency is called sync spot. Maybe I didn't include that before. So I'll go back here to this deal. And on here, should already be there. Yeah, it's already there. Weird. That was in accounts though. Okay, so yeah, it doesn't have it in this one, single spa in navigation. That's why it was missing. Start. How many people we got watching here, Russ?
Got 7. Had 7
7.
strong.
Thank you for sticking with me. I apologize for the frustration here. Okay, so cool. So go back here. That should be good. So if I go back to our navigation component, so navigate to URLs. Now we should have access to that. Yeah, it looks good. So then I can do on this, I could do navigate to URL and then /accounts. And then similarly for the home, I can also go to home, right? So if I save that, and I forgot to do my port again, those of you in the chat are probably screaming at me at this point because it's there we go. Cool. So now if I go back to, so if I look at the doc and I click on home, I should see, well, that didn't work. I got to prevent default. Let's try that. Hopefully we can see it where it does a transition between, yeah, there we go. So now it's actually loading the bundles. So if I do refresh, and then if I click on my account, you can see that now it's only loading that account bundle. So it's super small, super fast. Navigation stays persistent. There's no flash of installed content, which makes it pretty nice. Trying to think what else I wanted to show you.
Can I ask just sort of like a question, a general question? Why would I need to separate out my applications into micro front ends?
Yeah, great question. So imagine you have like for example, where I work, we have a team that's all responsible for accounts and profiles, right? So that's a whole team dedicated to authentication, OpenID, OpenID Connect, the login flow, doing handoffs. So they have a whole front end that they also manage as well. And we have a team that's dedicated to what we call the hub, right, which is like kind of all these disparate disparate applications that kind of connect together to have a unified experience. I have another team that's involved in enrollments. I have another team that's involved in network devices that can tell you how fast your Wi-Fi is, or how many Wi-Fi devices you have, or how many devices you have in your network. We have another team that's involved in security scans, so they can basically scan the dark web and see if you've been involved in any see if your email has been compromised, stuff like that. So each of those apps are individual apps, and they have their own domains and their own business domains, right? And they're all have their own logic and their own things like that. So what this will allow you to do is actually have a single site, and they all work seamlessly across each other. But each team can independently deploy in their own repository, and allows the teams to be autonomous and deploy independently. But you have a unified experience across the entire domain. Let me actually show you this.
So if one of those teams introduces a bug, it doesn't bring down the entire application?
Yeah, no, so that's a great point. So if I go back to that root container here, this error boundary right here. So if your application blows up, it's going to get caught in this error boundary, right? So you can do logging here, you can send it to, Sentry or whatever, but it's going to trap all your errors at this level, right? Which is great. So they're all isolated. So this is I was gonna say this is kind of like the proof of concept I've been working on at work, and each of these containers are their own individual applications. They have their own. Oops, I think I broke something. They have their own their own experiences, right? Each of these top level experiences are all individual experiences. But you can see each of these components here, right? The security center, photos, right? Claims. Each of these have their own little components that live on those pages. But then in the dashboard, I'm actually embedding all of those components together into one single experience. So the dashboard is its own application, and they're able to pull all these disparate, so each of these little pieces right here are kind of micro front ends, right? They're little parcels, little blocked modules of functionality that another application can compose together. And then this team can update this block on the fly, and it lives there. That's where it lives, right? So you can imagine a scenario where you can have these applications that are highly composable and interactive, right? Another thing that I didn't show that I wanted to get to, but probably may not have enough time, is I think it might be on here. So there's another thing that I created. It was called this component registry, where you can actually register a number of components from a number of different packages. So each of these teams have their own public UI packages that they can basically say, hey, other teams, you can use this. Well, each of those teams register those blocks onto a global registry, and then pages like the dashboard can actually use them, right? So I can say, oh, cool, use this block, right? So let's see. Back to our demo.
So is that application that could work for something like a style guide or a library of utilities?
Yeah. So let's do this. Let's go back here and let's actually make our own create single spa again. Oops. Let's create single spa. I need to plug into my power cable here because it's going to go dead in a second. All right, so I'm going to make a new folder. We're going to call this NashJS UI. And we're going to call this a in-browser utility module, yarn. So use TypeScript, call it NashJS. We'll call it UI. And let's see. Okay, so go to NashJS UI, yarn start, and port 8500. So I'm going to go back over here real quick and run a build against the navigation component. So I'm not going to change that for now. Then once that's done, I'll run that npx command again to do all the static assets. Then I'll update our index.js file or import map. So actually, I'm going to show you one other thing that's actually kind of cool. So npx static server. So now I have this static server running again. If I go back to our root container, you can see our navigation isn't being served from 8500 anymore, right? If I actually go here to local storage and do local storage set item dev tools true, refresh the page, I get this little helper right here. I don't know if you can see that or not. If I click this, I can go in and add a new, so I can go over here and say navigation, right? And this is the import map. I can see it, right? So I can actually click on this and say, hey, instead of this URL, I want you to actually go to this URL instead, navigation, and then we NashJS navigation /dist/NashJS navigation. If I apply that override, and I spelled everything correctly, and I refresh the page, now I have the navigation back, right? I didn't change this file at all, right? So that this file still has the old import on it, but I'm using this import map override locally in the browser to actually say, hey, you know what? Use this instead. And that's where you can, like when you're working with teams, imagine like this root container actually living on stable. Like you never even have to run the root container locally. You just change your override locally on your computer to point to your team's app that you're building against, right? Super powerful. So now if I go back to localhost 8500 for the UI package, let's see. Where did it go? Okay, so yeah, I'll close all this out. So this UI package right here, right? It has its own public. How do I say this? Its own public interface, right? So anything you export out of this file is going to be publicly accessible. So one thing I can do is actually come in here and create a new folder. I'll call it components. Components, and we're going to make we'll call it global header. Make a new file, global header, and let's actually go back to our navigation. And oops, component for that. I'm going to grab all this stuff here and put it in here. And so one thing I have to do is come in and add real quick yarn types React types. And I think there's one other thing with the Babel I need to do for React. It doesn't know it's actually a React app right now. So come here to tsconfig, change that, and also Babel to add that, and that should be it. And then make sure our Webpack config is making sure we're marking these externals here, right? Okay, so that's the setup. Yarn start again. So now I should have this folder. Where'd it go? So I have this global header file, and I'm gonna grab this. Don't need this anymore, and put this up here. Right. So now I have this global header file that if I can remember to yarn add single spa. I'll be able to use this, right? So I can say like H1 NashJS, right? This would be like our branding and all that stuff. I can import that file, and then if I go back to our UI right here, so I can import, let's see, we'll say import, export global header, components, global header. All right, I think that's, I think I'm exporting it. No, I'm not, I'm exporting it by default. Let's do this instead. All right, so now I have a named export. And then on my UI package, right, this package entry point, I'm saying export global header, right? And then the set public path right here, this is telling system.js, like this module, like the scope is, this is the scope. So whenever I import this somewhere else, right? So I'm about to import this file back in our navigation right here, right? So instead of this file, I'm going to actually import global header from NashJS UI, right? And then I can do global header like that instead, right? It's going to give me a type warning. I have to actually create some type defs for this. So just give me a second. I can add those two. I don't remember where I put them.
So you can have applications that actually export their stuff as a component library as well.
Yeah, exactly. I had thought that it generated a React style guide component for you for some reason, like using React style guide.
It did look like when you use the CLI that style guide was an option.
Yeah, I thought it was too. I guess maybe I missed it, or maybe I just hit the wrong one. Let me try it again, just to see like what the options are. I thought I hit it, but maybe I didn't. Excrete. While it's doing its thing.
Will, you've been going about an hour now, just FYI.
Okay, sorry, I'll wrap it up. Yeah, there's this typings folder. Let's grab this. And cool. And then if I change that, that should allow me to reference this folder now without it puking on me. All right, so what was that? So this was plus UI2. I thought I created that. I guess it didn't actually create. I guess you have to manually set it up. So, come on. Start port 8500. Okay, so hopefully this was helpful. I know we've kind of been mired in like some of the bugs and stuff like that, but there's really a ton of power here, and hopefully folks can see that.
How would you think about like deploying some of these? Would you have to deploy each service separately? And how would you go about like managing? You'd sort of manage each one as their own repo?
Yeah. So you can do it. You can do a number of ways. You can have a mono repo that does it all. You know, each of these individually you can build and deploy. You can have them each in their own repo. One thing that I can show is you can use something called AWS CDK, right? And use this in conjunction with GitHub Actions. It actually could basically run the build pipeline with the actions, and then deploy just everything that's in that in your disk folder to a bucket, right? And then you just update your import map to on your root container to point to the newest version of the file.
So you'd be dealing with purely static files at that point.
Yep, exactly. Yeah,
awesome.
So yeah, so this one app right here, this is all static files, right? Technically, it's not true because it's using a Lambda at Edge, or a Lambda with API gateway to actually generate a nonce for CSP, but it's a little too complicated for this topic here. Let's see. To do this automatically, but I'm guessing it's not working for some reason. Anyways, this will be the last thing I'll show, and we'll go over to Q&A. I'm sorry for taking everybody's time up here. Did I spell it wrong in the typings file? NashJS UI. No, it's there. Weird. Oh, you know what? I didn't. I think I registered it in the index file. Yeah, I'll do it here too. UI. And what did I said it was at port 8500. And this is UI. And let's see. Start. Oops. Okay, cool. And then so now I can go back here and then run static. Hopefully that build still ran. I think it was just warning about the type, but it should still work without it. Hopefully. Global header has no default export. What did I do that at? NashJS UI. Global header. Okay. There you go. So there's that NashJS component, right? So another cool thing about this is, like, since this is this bundle is being included locally, and we're including this file in another app somewhere, right? I can change these files, and all the hot module loading still works. So now I can use this, UI components across all of your apps. You can have consistent styling, right? So you can share everywhere, right? So
you didn't have to do any kind of npm linking or anything like that.
Yeah, no, so it's loading across the wire, right? So it's basically pointing here, right?
Sweet.
Cool. That's all I got. If anybody after the Q&A wants to dig into this more, I'm happy to stay up and dig into it further. Again, apologies for not being super polished on this. This was Russ and I both looked up at like 4 o'clock this afternoon. Like, oh wait, we don't have a speaker, so we scrambled. So hopefully this was informative. Please let me know if you have any other questions. Yeah.
I've asked for questions. Yeah, I think for building an application that you can run fully client side and that you could have different teams work on, I mean, that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I wish I would have had like a more like the repo already kind of baked out, so I can just kind of like hop between examples. The way the cookie crumbles sometimes, I guess. But I'm really excited about it. One thing that I want to show maybe next to NashJS, or again, if people want to stay on later, is that composer builder pattern that we've been working through. It's basically, kind of like what we did at Lonely Planet together, Russ, where we have data in components. But imagine that with a bunch of teams being able to register components on the fly. And then you just use data to be able to say, hey, use this component with these props nested all the way down with their children. And then all of a sudden you're able to compose an application through data. And then you can do something like, a WYSIWYG to build and drag and drop components on a screen, and off you go, right? Really powerful. Well, cool. So it doesn't look like we have any questions. Thank you everybody for joining. Hopefully I didn't drone on too long.
That was really cool. Thanks for doing that.
Yeah. Thanks everybody. Appreciate your time. If you don't want to hear me ramble and mess things up for an hour next month, submit a talk, please.
Yeah, let's get it. There's in the Nash Dev channel, and then as well on the meetup.com website is the form for that. Oh, thanks, Will. Thanks, everybody.
Yep.
Have a good one.
Thank you. See ya.
Bye.